fine collection of Aspenites we have in the room today. Let me be the first to say good afternoon, comrades. I'm Brent Gardner-Smith. On behalf of the Moore family, let me say welcome and thank you very much today for coming to this celebration for Ken and Betty Moore. I'm the master of ceremonies today, so one of my duties is to ask you to turn off your cell phone ringer if you have it, so that we don't get interrupted in the midst of serious crying or laughing. I had the very good fortune of meeting Kenny Moore some 30 years ago. I was a reporter, cub reporter at KSNO. And as you know, Kenny Moore was an avid consumer of local news. And I'm sure I've written a story about something in Aspen that I knew very little about. And he called me and basically summoned me to the house and said, I want to enlighten you on a particular issue. So I got up there to the house on McLean Flats, which of course then was in the middle of nowhere. And there was Ken, comfortably ensconced in his study, surrounded by books and documents. And he proceeded to give me some advice. He said, I really think you should look much more deeply into the issue you've been covering. I think you should consult this stack of documents I've arranged for you to review. And I think you would be well served if you put your issue into a much greater context. And he said, kind of subtly, and you might want to try and do all that with a bit more style than you've mustered to date. It was good advice. I got to know Ken's philosophy about local government through the years as a reporter. It's true that he felt everybody in local government could probably be smarter than he perceived them to be. And he really felt, I think, that local government would do best if it just left the good people of Aspen and Pitkin County alone. He felt the people here were quite creative enough to forge their own path towards some better utopia. But he wasn't dark and cynical about government. In fact, what I think the value he held most dearly was that citizens here had an obligation to keep themselves very well informed. That well-informed citizens engaged in well-intentioned debate ultimately might lead to the goodwill of the majority, as he put it. He felt citizens, if left alone, would figure things out just fine. That's not how he felt, though, about the local press corps. He figured we needed a lot of help, right? And that helps explain the steady stream of letters to the editor from KNCB Moore, and his admonition that we all be brave, comrades. I had the good fortune of connecting with Ken late in life, and he knew that many people were confused by his use of the word comrades, that perhaps people thought he was a communist. He was not a communist. He was an individualist, not a communist. I think he meant comrades in the sense of my fellow citizens. But I also think he was quite sincere about the notion that we should be brave. For he said in an interview after he had sold the house on McLean Flats that people are often afraid of freedom. They fear it. They don't know how to handle it. And they too willingly are willing to accept curtailment of freedom. So he felt citizens needed to be more creative and they needed to take more risks. So I think he was quite sincere when he told us we should be brave. I've had the good fortune this week in preparing for today and spending a lot of time with the Moore family, which, as you know, is full of lovely and strong women. I went mushroom hunting with Pam, which I think was her own private tribute to the man she still calls today Daddy. We didn't find any mushrooms, but she told me a lovely anecdote. She said, most parents, when they see their children climbing up, say, something risky like the side of a house, they'll say, get down from there, you might hurt yourself. Not Kenny Moore. He would tell Pam, climb higher. See what you can find. Test your limits. And then I had the good fortune of going through the family photo archive with Val, and it's clear to me, in seeing all those photographs, that Ken and Betty Moore probably had more fun than anyone else who moved to Aspen in the 1950s and stayed for 50 years. Skiing, hiking, mushroom hunting, sailing, cruising in the Northwest, river running across the West, traveling around the world, adventuring. I mean, they set the bar high, and they set it early for the modern Aspen lifestyle, right? I'm still trying to emulate that. And then as I got to know more about the family history, I realized, I probably had gotten to know the wrong more. That it was Betty I should have gotten to know. Betty, as I understand it, and I have to confess I didn't get to know her well, it's my loss, but she was a charming and warm hostess. She was an accomplished equestrian. She was a staunch supporter of the arts, and she was an excellent photographer, which you will see today. She also happened to be married to the world's biggest ham, which is why in most of the family photos, Kenny is happily ensconced in the middle, and why there are fewer pictures of Betty. As you know, probably, after Betty passed away in December, the Moore family held a private service in Santa Barbara. And they held another service after Ken left us in April. But they knew they needed to come here and hold an event, certainly. They needed to hold a memorial service, a celebration of life, an appreciation, a party, one more great harvest dinner. So here we are. And we are surely here today to mourn the loss of Ken and Betty. But I think if any tears fall today, they should fall on pretty broad smiles, for Ken and Betty Moore led long, wonderful lives. Their lives were not perfect, I've come to learn. They were complicated people. There was loss, there was pain, there was struggle, there was hard work, and there was hardship. But from my limited perspective, their lives were full of sunshine and laughter and adventure and creativity and family and love. So what else do you want, right? The Moore family is very eager to share their tribute today with you. They are strong and lovely women. There is, of course, one strong male in the mix, Kearns, who may need reinforcements from time to time, gentlemen. And certainly these lovely ladies will need your love and support in the weeks and months to come. So do stay close. They want to share their tribute, and then they very much would like you to stay. They'd be honored if you would stay and have a cocktail and then join them for a buffet supper. And after dinner, we want to pass the microphone. Each and every one of you here, I'm sure, has wonderful tales of Ken and Betty, and we want to hear them. So we've booked the hall into very late into the evening, and you're welcome to stay as long as you'd like and tell your stories. I'm very honored to be here today and to help the Moore family with this program. The advice that Kenny gave me 30 years ago, I haven't really known that I've been following it as a journalist, but sure enough, I really have been trying to look deeper into things, consider the source documents, and put things into a broader context. So I really appreciate getting to know Ken Moore.